Welcome everyone to another session Data with Nick the Greek. Today we're gonna finally talk about how you're setting up your local Spark environment. A lot of people ask for it, and today after this session you're gonna be ready to code and able to do your coding locally. And there are multiple reasons why you want it. So on the one hand, you want to learn, you want to do it locally, don't depend on any cloud provider. On the other hand, even if you're on a productive system, even on the cloud, sometimes you want to have a local installation to, for instance, run tests locally when coding and developing, or to let it run on a DevOps pipeline, for instance, where virtual machine outside of your cloud application on a Cloud Spark application is running. And this is the third part of Spark Basics Simply Explained. So if you missed the previous two parts, like what is Spark and how the Spark architecture is looking like, you're gonna find the links below in the comments, and also up in the screen, you're gonna find a link in a bit. So what's the agenda for today? So first of all, we're gonna shortly just talk about different cloud providers which are available. Just that you know, Spark locally is of course not the only option, but nowadays you rather want a little bit more flexibility and easy scalability, and that's, in my point of view, easiest to go on the cloud and use one of those cloud providers. And then we straight away gonna deep dive into a step-by-step installation guide, and I also prepared a sample code for you, which you can use for testing afterwards in VS Code, for instance. And with that, let's get started. So let's talk about the cloud providers who are supporting Spark. So generally speaking, first of all major cloud providers, Azure, AWS, and Google are supporting Spark. And so one of the applications you're gonna find even on all three of them is Databricks. So people who built up the company Databricks were also like the developers of Spark, but also MLflow or Delta. So that's pretty cool because usually at Databricks you also get the newest features quite fast. And you have like the independence also of the cloud provider. So you can just run it on AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure at the same time, or even switch to it. Then on Azure, or let's say Microsoft, you have Microsoft Fabric, which is quite new. Then you have EMR on AWS and Cloud Data Prog. I have to go away with my head a little bit on the Google Cloud platform. I personally are working with Databricks, so I don't know much about the other ones. With Microsoft Fabric, I had some touch points. And for instance, also in Azure, I know there are like other applications as well. With Data Factory, you can do a little bit of Spark. You have Synapse, like the old Synapse, not part of Microsoft Fabric, where you can do Spark, but those are rather the state-of-the-art applications, which I now found and would recommend for the different clouds um, which can be working on. So Azure Databricks, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, Amazon EMR for AWS, on the Google Cloud platform, Cloud Data Proc, and then Microsoft Fabric. Well, of course, it's connected to Azure, but it's not directly running on Azure. It's more like an application wrapped above the Power BI service. All right, now let's start installing the applications. So we're gonna need the following applications or software to install first. So first of all, Python 3.10, as Spark only supports Python 3.10 by now. I think in June they're gonna be Spark 4.0 coming out, and then the plan is that 3.12, as far as I remember, gonna be supported. Then we need Java V8, Git, which I would recommend to just connect to Git repositories, Miniconda or Anaconda to set up your local Python environment, and VS Code or any other Python development tool. So I personally like VS Code to also work with Jupyter notebooks, but also Python scripts. And yeah, now let's install all the application or download them first of all. So if you want to skip this part, you can also do it because I think downloading, installing is not that difficult. So the first thing is Python. We just click on Windows here to download it. Then we have Java to download. So that's maybe sometimes a little bit confusing, but basically you need, in our case, Windows. Usually we have a 64 system architecture, and we need the JDK. And I'm gonna decide to download the MSI in this case. Then we gonna have Git. There we just click here on Windows and then click here download, and then you have here the 64. If you need the 32, you're gonna go there, but usually as said, we have a 64 version. Then we need Miniconda. Also here, we just click on this button and download it. And then we just need VS Code, and we just click here to download it. So now let's start with installation. So we go to the folder where I downloaded everything. That's in Spark downloads, and we're gonna start with Python. So I would also recommend to add it to the path, then you don't have any issues later. All right, next we're gonna do the Java installation. Here we go. We're gonna ignore adding the Java path. We're gonna do this together in a bit. And click install. All right, next we're gonna install Git. Next, okay, the folder from the previous installation exists already, then I'm just going with the default setting, so just click a few times next and install. All right, let's also quickly just check in the command line if Git is now accepted. Yeah, he recognizes that Git has been installed. Then the next one gonna be Miniconda. So let's go just for me. Let's add it also to the path variable. All right, and the last thing we want to install is VS Code. So accept the agreement, next, and install. All right, that's it. So one thing we forgot to also check if Conda has been installed correctly. So let's just run once Conda, and it also recognizes it. All right, now we want to install Spark in Hadoop. So let's go first of all to the download side of Spark. So here you just choose the release version. And right now we have 3.50 and 3.52 available. I'm surprised 3.51 is not yet there, as it has been released a few days ago. And then usually here you just keep with the standard, just take care that you remember the Hadoop version, which related to it, and then you click on download Spark and click here, and I already downloaded it, so I will not continue with that. And then we're gonna go to the download folder and want to choose where we want to extract it. So we go to extract all. And then in my case, I created a separate folder for it, which is called Spark. And that's where I want to have it extracted. So it's gonna take a little bit. While this is taking some time, we're gonna go and download Hadoop. So first of all, we're gonna need to create this folder, also in my Spark folder in this case. So we need a folder win utils, and then in there we want a folder bin for the binaries. So where's new folder bin? So, and then we're gonna go to this link here where we're gonna find this Hadoop DDL in Win utils. Just take care that you're gonna choose here the correct Hadoop version which you're needing. And then let's start with Win utils. Excel, we're gonna save it in this folder. There we go. And then we're also gonna do the same thing for the DDL. Just take care, it might tell you that it's a dangerous file and then it doesn't want to save it straight away. So you have to do some additional clicks, at least in my Edge browser here. So you click on keep, then here again, keep anyway, and then it should have downloaded it correctly. And let's see what happened with Spark. This seems to have been also extracted correctly. All right, let's now set up the system variables. And that's the most important part, because that's usually when Spark is not working properly. So the first thing is we're gonna need the Java home path. So for that, you're just gonna check where in program files where you install your Java. So in this case, we have Eclipse Adoptium and then hotspot, and there's already a JDK hotspot with the Java version. Let's copy this link already. And the other two paths which you need is there we will download Spark, and there we downloaded the WinUtils and had extended Hadoop DDL. And then we just have to search for system, environmental variables, there it is already. And then we click on environmental, let's just move it a little bit to the side, environmental variables, and then we have it here. And then we click here on new. And now we're gonna start with Java home, where we're gonna copy this path. Then we gonna copy where Spark is installed. So another new, I do it for the system variables for Hadoop, Spark and Java, because that's for me a little bit more global. So Spark home is there, and then Hadoop home gonna be added here. Hadoop home, and then we have to look for a path. So if it doesn't exist, you can also create it by yourself. So we just click here onto path, and then Java is theoretically already added here, but so we're gonna do it based on the documentation just together. It will nothing happen if you have it duplicated. So Java home and then slash the binary path. Then another new one here, it's gonna be Spark home, and then another new one here gonna be Hadoop home. Okay. So next we're gonna do the same thing for the user variables for Python basically. So Python is usually installed under app data local programs Python. So this folder might not be visible, but if you add the path, you're gonna be able to see the other underlying folders on that. And we need the path unto the Excel to define Spark Python, Spark driver Python. As Python is on the user side, I'm also gonna set Python, Spark Python now also on the user variable side. So we do Spark Python and copy the link. And we do also Spark driver Python and also add the link here. And sometimes Python is not added correctly. Remember, we clicked that the path is gonna be added. So in this case, it's all good. If it isn't, you also would have to add those two paths here in the path variable. But here it's all right. So now we can try to test Spark if the installation has been properly set up already. So we can go to our CMD command line and then run the commands which you see here. So first of all, we're gonna do PySpark and see if any error occurs. Yeah, one topic I already see, okay, Anaconda somehow overwritten the path variable, but this shouldn't be a big issue here. So it takes a few seconds. Okay, couldn't bind on port 4040, but it bind on the next port for the web UI. And so now we can create just a random data frame, for instance, SDF equals spark dot range 10. Okay, it takes a bit, and then let's count, let's do a count and see if the rows are also 10 as I created the Spark data frame, and if the result is coming out. Okay, it creates a stage, super, and then 10 is coming out as a result, and you can also click here on the Spark UI and see if all the information are loaded. So here you can see your jobs. So that means Spark has been properly installed. All right, now we're gonna set up our Conda environment. And for that, we're gonna go to the CMD again. Let's move it a little bit below. And first of all, we want to create a new Conda environment. So we're gonna do Conda create minus new. Let's call our environment, in this case, PySpark. And we want to install Python 3.10. So now it performs the installation. One thing. Okay, let's click yes. Okay, here it also gives us the hint, Conda activate PySpark. Then we have to install the PySpark install. So pip install PySpark, pip install PySpark. Of course, we want to define exactly the version which we want to install, which has to be the same as the Spark version which we install. And a package which I also recommend is this one. So you can find more information here, but for instance, I like to use it like to analyze Parquet files, including the metadata. And that's what we're gonna be doing now as well. Okay, that means we also set up our local Conda environment. All right, now let's do the final testing. So what we need first of all is my dummy script for testing. So you can either download the script directly or clone my repository. And then we're gonna be opening also VS Code and go to exactly the script which we have. Then what's really important is we of course don't want to use the standard Python environment, but our PySpark environment, which we created with Miniconda. And then we're gonna go through the script. What's really important, and that's something which might be a little bit confusing. So what we're doing here is we overwriting the environmental variables which we defined manually before. So why are we doing it? Because you always have to define the environment path where your Python installation is. And if you have multiple Conda environments, for instance, with different Python installations and so on, you would have to always manually adjust it. So what I'm usually doing is, in the past, what we did before, I just gonna pass the path of my main Python environment, and then here I just adjusted it to the current one, which is basically executing. So you might, if for instance PySpark gonna support Python 3.12, if you don't execute those rows in this case, and your local content environment gonna have Python 3.12, you might have some issues. Then we're gonna create our Spark session and also a Spark context variable. Yeah, the context right now we're not using, to be honest, so normally we wouldn't need to do it. Let's wait a few seconds and then we should be ready to do a few tests here. Okay, so first of all, let's create a data frame. Okay, then we want to test if also the saving works, that Hadoop has been installed properly. So it works. Let's read the same path in again. This also works. And let's also check if our gsearch Spark extension has also been properly installed. So here we got the metadata, and with that so if this script is fully working on you, then you successfully have set up Spark correctly on your local computer on Windows. And with that, thanks a lot for listening today. As always, feel free to click on the link below my channel and subscribe, or you're gonna find also like a red icon on the right side. And now there should be also popping up some videos regarding the Spark intro, which might be interesting for you to check them out to really understand what is Spark and how the Spark architecture is working. And through that, stay tuned for the next video.